Hello, I'm Tom Cross, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Welcome to this year's 10 Who Made a Difference celebration. We're honored you could join us. While we are living through difficult times, the 10 Who Made a Difference is about people who rise above difficulty to make life better for their neighbors and often people they don't even know. They do it in a variety of ways. Often they band together to make Santa Fe and northern New Mexico a better place. One thing each of these people have in common is sacrifice. They sacrifice time, comfort, and often their own treasures to help. That's what brings us here today, the opportunity to say thank you for their care, dedication, and community spirit. People like those we honor today serve as inspirations to us all, and we're proud to offer this recognition to these folks who have served our communities without the desire to be recognized. It's one of the amazing things about Santa Fe that there are so many people who give so much. Every year when we ask for nominations for this award, we receive dozens and dozens of submissions. And while we can't honor everyone tonight, we can say thank you for all your work. And on behalf of everyone at the Santa Fe New Mexican and owner Robin Martin and her family, we're proud to bring this presentation to you together. And we'd like to thank our sponsors for this event. Enjoy the following video profiles of 10 who made a difference, class of 2021.
Hi, I'm Susan Cahoon, the Human Resources Director for the Santa Fe New Mexican. For the past few years, I've had the pleasure of being part of the 10 Who Made a Difference by organizing a banquet to recognize the honorees. While COVID-19 has changed the way we honor the 10, it has allowed us to share the work of the class of 2021 with even more people. For the first time ever, the 10 Who Made a Difference were part of Santa Fe's Plaza lighting ceremony on the day after Thanksgiving. The mayor and thousands of attendees cheered as each honoree was introduced by our news content editor, Cynthia Miller. One of the honorees, Ralph Ortiz, even had special plaques made for the 2021 10. In addition to their introduction to the city, the 10 Who Made a Difference were featured in daily newspaper articles and a special edition magazine dedicated to their work. I hope you subscribe. As is our tradition at the New Mexican, each of this year's honorees will receive a specially produced piece of Nambe, forever recognizing their place in local history. I thank each honoree for their inspiring hard work and commitment to our communities. It's that same kind of commitment we at the Santa Fe New Mexican strive to instill in our work every day. We continue our work to support our community through the Empty Stocking Fund. For more than 3 decades, we've collected funds to distribute to those in need. All the applicants for assistance are vetted by a dedicated group of volunteer partners to ensure your donation goes where it's most needed. Please consider making a donation to the Empty Stocking Fund through the link on your screen. Again, congratulations to the 10 Who Made a Difference. Thank you and happy holidays.
Hi everybody, my name's Phil Casaus. I'm the editor of the Santa Fe New Mexican. I'm really excited that you're here with us to honor some of the greatest people that you'll ever meet in northern New Mexico. That's the 10 Who Made a Difference that is sponsored by the Santa Fe New Mexican. This is really one of our most important times of the year and one of the things of which we're most proud, because it recognizes people who do things in the community without any expectation of being recognized. And that's really the picture of selflessness. And I think it's really a model that all of us can look to and maybe learn from. I think one of the things that we're really excited about the 10 Who Made a Difference is the process by which the honorees are selected. It's not easy, it takes a lot of time, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about how that happens. Months before this night, we put out a call for people in the community, whether they're regular readers of the New Mexican or not, we always hope they are, to go ahead and nominate people they think are deserving of the honor. We get dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of nominees. From there, we have a deadline, of course, and so from there, all those nominations are put in the hands of Cynthia Miller. She's our content editor for the New Mexican. She puts all that together, collates it for a group of readers, a committee, if you will, to go ahead and look at those all those nominations. And from there, they begin a very arduous and difficult process in selecting just 10. I've been on that committee many times. I can tell you, there are so many people in our community that do great work, and hopefully they get renominated so that at some point we can select them. Once those nominees are selected, Cynthia goes ahead and informs them about that honor, and we go from there and begin the process for the evening that we're all here tonight to celebrate. It's a truly newspaper-wide effort to do. We have several reporters who fan out and talk to our nominees, create stories. Our photography and digital enterprise teams create photos and videos so that we can celebrate these folks in the newspaper over a 10-day period. But we also produce a magazine that will also reprint the stories and photos that have been seen in the New Mexican. And we really feel like we wanted to make it a first-class effort. We feel like we have. And we feel like that's really important for our nominees to have and their families to have as a recognition that lasts a test of time. I really would be remiss if I didn't thank first the nominees themselves. I always am moved and humbled by the stories of the people that we select and the things they do. I'd also like to thank some really key people in the newsroom who do that. Of course, the reporters and photographers and videographers who make all that happen. I'd really like to thank Cynthia Miller. She really puts a lot of herself into this in making sure it happens. But tonight, I think this is really special for us because it's our way of saying thank you to not just the nominees, but the community at large. And I think it's also another way for us to celebrate the good things that have happened this year and really the previous year through probably one of the most difficult times in American history. So with all that said, I'm going to get out of the way. I want to thank you for being here once more. I want to thank everybody who made all this happen. And I hope you enjoy the evening. I know I will. Thanks.
Barrios Unidos is a nonprofit grassroots organization. It was birthed out of desperation, I guess, to find support for my son, who has, went to jail and came out a drug addict. And the longer I saw this, it pushed me into wanting to find support to see why we had these loopholes and why we couldn't find support for individuals that we cared about. I went back to school. It took me 7 years to earn my bachelor's, but in those 7 years I learned everything that I could about addiction, about how had heroin come and taken a hold of so many individuals. And so I learned to think outside the box, and that's why we're here with all the different, the cornucopia of support that we can offer individuals, and not just the person struggling, because it's not, you can't dissect a family, you can't dissect a community, or you should never do that. And so it's not just about the individual, but it's about that wraparound family around the individual. And then from that is community. And, I know that a strong family impacts community, but a strong community can change the world. We are here in Chimayo, New Mexico. We've been here probably going on 6 years now. And so we do all kinds of stuff. I know that we have the food distribution. We have a grandparent support group. We have burrito outreach. We have Arremedio outreach. We have our street outreach, and we're just considered a drop-in center. Just if you ask me, we probably do it. I remember thinking, had my son not been that Tecate walking down the street, would I be here, you know? And I think for a lot of people, until it impacts them, they don't realize the humanity of individuals, the struggles and the trauma that's out there. I guess every so often I entertain that thought, but I can't because I'm here and there's no turning back.
My name is Brent Bonwell. I'm part of the Santa Fe Fat Tire Society. We do a lot of work out here. This is the Galisteo Basin Preserve. The last 4 or 5 years we've built about 15 miles of trails out here. We also help the preserve maintain the trails they have. We work throughout the National Forest, on the city trails, county trails, all the way around. So I do a lot of work with that. I also help put on bike races through a group called the Core Crew. And we've raised $140,000 that's gone to local nonprofits. About half of that to the Santa Fe Conservation Trust, who owns the conservation easements for the land out here. And we really are proud to be able to support organizations like that and help trails be accessible and available for everybody. I mean, I do a lot of this work because I'm somewhat selfish, because I like to use the trails myself, but I also know that it's, helps everybody out. Especially, the trail's always been popular here, but it's been especially popular since the pandemic. And there's so many people that come out and use the trails. And I just like to see them, more trails accessible for more people and keep the trails we have in good shape so they don't erode and become trashed. And so I just do a lot of work with that. Once you start doing trail work, it kind of becomes an obsession. Like beavers go crazy with the sound of running water. And it's like somebody who works on trails, they go crazy when we start seeing gullies and erosion, and we just want to get out there and fix it. And so that's basically what I do.
I'm a strong Catholic. I believe in the Lord, and I try to help the community. I try to help the citizens of the city of Santa Fe, but especially I like to help the youth. I want these kids to be safe nowadays and also do the things that are right. Like my dad used to teach me all the time, always do the things that are right. I acquired in 1967 Ortiz Printing Shop, and my son presently, Chad Ortiz, is presently running Ortiz Printing. And approximately 25 years ago, I purchased Des Ortiz and Sports, and I've been running it since. So we're having the conjunction between Ortiz Printing, Santa Fe Team Sales, and Des Ortiz. And we do a lot of things for the community, and I believe in helping it. I give donations to the schools. The reason why I do that too is they're always cutting their budgets, especially for the kids for extracurricular activities, such as sports, or the art shows or things like that. And some of the students, they need to be recognized. Let's say attendance, they're outstanding students, etc., like that. And I donate trophies all the time to them. I also donate a lot of the T-shirts, etc., for the schools. Sometimes they pay me for the entire job, but most of the time I give discounts. The reason why, because the schools have a limited budget. What I'm really quite extensively proud of, I do quite a bit of donations for the New Mexico Knights of Columbus, basically the Santa Maria La Paz Knights of Columbus. And I also do a lot for the Elks Lodge here in Santa Fe, as well as New Mexico Activities Association, all the high school sports. And I'm one of the cornerstones at Santa Maria La Paz, because I helped out, believed in the church to build the church when it first was established. And I've also donated several statues at Rosario Cemetery or Santa Maria La Paz. I'm involved constantly with people. I do a lot of funerals. I have a candle rosary that I do, and I do it for funerals. I do it for anybody calls me up and say, we're up here on top of Hyde Park, can you come and pray the rosary? I'm on my way. I'm an old man already, but I'm still wanting to show me, especially my kids, show them a good role model, how to go ahead and help people, do anything I possibly can. The things, again, like my dad said, do the things that are right.
My name is Juanita Quintana. I am a foster grandparent. The program is to treat the kids nice, to have respect for them, and to help them. What parents can't help them at home, we could try to help them here at the school. I walk around the classroom, make sure they're doing their work. I sit down sometimes and they read to me. Some of them don't know your 5s, 10s, and 20s. They don't know the 2, 4, 6. Some of them need a lot of help. But that's why grandmas are here. That's why grandmas are here to help them. So I have them sit over there with me in my desk, and we work together, and they're wonderful, wonderful kids. And they all have respect, and they all want to work with grandma. I see some of my students from way back, and I won't remember them because they're already big students. But they would call me Grandma Juanita, and I would look and I said, oh, who are you? I don't remember you. I have one student that he lives by me, and he still calls me Grandma Juanita, and he's going to Santa Fe High School. I've been volunteering for 9 years. There's probably like maybe 14 grandmas. There's no, oh, we need a raise or anything. No, there's nothing like that. It's all volunteer. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm very happy with the program. I'm happy with this program, that it got me started with the children, because it keeps me from being so sad at home, and I'm happy to be here with them. They all want to work with grandma, so we're all a team. We're all a team, and I love my students.
I was always active in community work, wherever I was. But I started volunteering for the Food Depot for the Super Bowl. And I loved the people, and I loved the whole concept, and I thought it was really great. In 2009, I think, we started doing food drives in our neighborhood. I was president of the association at the time, and I said, you know, this is an important thing, and we need to reach out and give back to the community. And then 10 years ago is when I said to Sherry Hooper, who was the executive director, she and Justin were at the house after the pickup of all the food, and I said, we really should do this citywide. I said, this is a great way to do it. It's a good plan that works. Let's do it. And they turned to me and said, go for it, Linda. So that's how it started. Okay, well, last year we did $171,000. And I was blown away by that. For me, I mean, it was overwhelming that people were so generous, and they gave with their hearts. They really did. Because they knew what was happening, and they knew there were so many families and individuals in need because of what was happening with the COVID. So last year was tremendous. And then this year, our goal was $185,000. And when Tim told me and handed me the paperwork with $201,000, I was blown away. It was great. And that actually equaled, that was the most important thing. It equaled over 1 million pounds of food, which fed a lot of people. And the idea when I started this was that I wanted communities, all of the communities of Santa Fe, to come together, to work together in unison, to give as much as they could to those that were in need and to build the sense of community. And I think it's starting to really happen, to really make a difference.
Community resources is all about creating closed-loop systems in the community. So taking waste streams and turning them into something valuable, and then educating the community about how to participate and how to create those systems in their own life and on a community scale. And so we collect used cooking oil for biodiesel, food waste for compost. We use that compost on the community farm here that we operate, that then grows food for the community, whether that's through our farm stand on site or through food donations to local hunger efforts. So we started really small scale with collecting used cooking oil and let's see if this works. And let's see if we can, start with this kind of small investment of time and relationships and energy and see what happens. Can we make this work in a way that it sustains itself and then ultimately can have enough kind of surplus of energy and connections and people and revenue to then grow and say, okay, now we can do this on a larger scale, and now the surplus from this is going to allow us to start the compost program.
We're taking a waste stream that's high in nitrogen value, and we are running through the composting process where we're adding carbon and water and oxygen, and we're making a highly organic living soil amendment that then when it goes into the soil, it's adding the life and organic matter back into the soil, which helps plants thrive and also helps sequester carbon from our atmosphere.
We're excited to be where we are, but also really curious and excited about what's next and how can this, because one farm and one compost operation isn't the full solution, but how can this replicate, how can this educate, and how can our choices as a community really lead to a more nourishing community for all of us.
Where we are growing the food and eating the food and using our waste resources and also our resources in order to be able to grow our communities. Why isn't this model just everywhere? Why are we sticking with our old ideas of how community developments get made? Why can't we be more inclusive and natural and organic in the way that we interact with each other?
So the way I got involved with mentoring kids in Santa Fe started out with arriving here in 1992 to work at the lab. And in Los Alamos, we have thousands of students who come here in the summer. And very early on, I started hiring students to come work with me. And this is because already in grad school and in college, and even in high school, I just love teaching to people. So in the last 10 years, I've been teaching these programming courses around town, and I try to get kids from 6th grade on involved. So now, over time with my students, and with my collaborators, we've developed a whole vision of what it takes to get somebody ready to do research and to do it really well. It turns out the chess works really well to get young kids involved in an intellectual path. So in Santa Fe, we used to have a delightful person who spent 40 years of his life teaching chess to kids. His name was Andy Novak. And I watched everything he had done here, and I started helping him out with organizing chess in Santa Fe. And then Andy got cancer and passed away rather quickly, and then I decided that I'll try to continue as much as I could what he was doing. we have this this view that, you know, chess players and programmers are often white male children, and that pisses me off. It should piss everybody off, because it's just a wonderful thing to do, and you should not have only a small fraction of the population that does it. And so when I try to get students involved in computer programming, I do a lot of teaching in schools throughout town so that we get students from every background. It certainly is a lot of effort that goes into it, but somehow it fits smoothly with my life. What I get back from it, though, is something you cannot imagine. I'm old enough now that I have former students who are professors at major universities, and they come back and give lectures at the Institute. I have high school juniors who come and work with other high school juniors, telling them how to get insight into extrasolar planet phenomena. And you watch that happen and you think, oh yeah, the Flynn effect is real, the next generations are wonderful. And you get to ride that and see it happening. And it's incredible.
The Santa Fe Indigenous Center started as the Santa Fe Indian Center, and it wasn't until last year in 2020 that our board decided to change it to the Indigenous Center to be more inclusive. So it was started at first with volunteers, and they got a small grant to help Native Americans who needed emergency funds. And just by using a phone, they bought a cell phone and they published that number, and they took turns answering it and gave out that money. But in 2017, we finally got an office, which we have now, where people could come and where we could have meetings and meals and classes, and so we're on 1420 Cerrillos. In 2016, we were involved with a community-wide health assessment, and over 150 tribes that live in Santa Fe answered this assessment and survey. And the two largest findings were shocking to me. The first one was that over half of all Native Americans who live in Santa Fe have food insecurity. The second main finding is that Native Americans that live here feel isolated and alone. And so based on those two findings, we've made all of our programs. We distribute food every other week, and then we have many gatherings. We did more before the pandemic. And classes. We have a lecture series, and we try to have things where people can get together. And a lot of Native Americans that live here make their money through art and through selling jewelry and pottery and all sorts of arts, and they didn't have the access to sell them during the pandemic, so they weren't able to pay their rent. So we had a lot of people apply to us to pay their back rent, to pay electricity, to pay gas. We gave out a lot of money to families. And I know that we have reached at least 800 individuals in 2020 during the pandemic. Our mission is to serve urban Indians, and most grants and government programs are for Native Americans who live on a reservation or pueblo. And I'm grateful for the money that goes to them, but 75% of all Native Americans in the whole United States live in urban areas, and they fall through the cracks. And so they don't get the services they need. So that's why we're here. I have been on many different boards, but being on the Indigenous Center board has brought me the most joy.
Okay, so Compassion Through Action grew out of my volunteer work in Los Angeles with a small homeless charity. They were making sack lunches for the homeless, and I chimed into that group, and it rang absolutely true for me, thankfully, because I had been looking for something to do to give back to the community. And I came up with Compassion Through Action after that group kind of dissolved, I guess you could say. We focus on what we can, which is easing the suffering of people living on the streets. That's the focus. So you start asking yourself, what type of things do they need? Well, they need food, absolutely, water. And then from there, warm clothing, blankets, tents, sleeping bags, shoes, socks, underwear. I mean, the list goes on and on. Hygiene type items, feminine products. The list goes really just on and on of what we seek to offer to them, just to give them some sense that there are people out there that care, that we hate to see that they're suffering, and we want to help in any way we can. And in this small way, we provide those type of things for them. I have seen people that I knew in my youth, not very many because I'm older and they're, the majority of them are younger, but I know their parents. I mean, there's one kid in particular, early 20s, and when we just started chatting, he's a nice guy, and when we started chatting, I realized that I went to school with his dad, and we're still friends, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. We live in really complex times now, and I just want to see people spending just a little bit of their time giving back to the community. Philosophically, I believe we all have an inherent responsibility to help those less fortunate than ourselves. It's as simple as that, to whatever degree. And you can define what less fortunate means. Doesn't necessarily have to mean homeless people. There's a lot of elderly. There's a lot of handicap. Hospice, the list goes on and on. I think we need each other more now than we ever have. We live in a very complex society now, and we have to turn towards one another. We can't rely on government to fix everything. We can't. We have to look at our neighbors and say, let's get together and do something about what we don't like, what shouldn't be. As the saying goes, be the change you want to see. And it's absolutely true.
I've been working with families with dementia of all different kinds, Alzheimer's, etc., for 30 years now. And back in the early 2000s, I had been so involved with many people with dementia and their families and caregivers, and I kept seeing a lack of public places that they could come to and feel safe. Because we had support groups. That was not a problem, but that's different. I wanted something that people could do out in public, be out in the community. And it was just accidental that I came across the idea of the Alzheimer's Cafe, and it just hit me. I said, this is perfect. Because to me, a cafe means a place where people can get together on a casual level and just enjoy themselves, whatever, and so I decided to start one. Now, I assumed, because it was such a brilliant idea, that it was already done all over the place. And I was shocked to find out that I was actually the first one in the United States. I used a community room at one of the senior complexes around here for a couple of months, and it didn't feel right. One of my friends said, why don't you check with the Children's Museum? So I visited up here, met with the director, told him what my project was, and so he said, absolutely. That was in 2008. So we have been here since then, and I couldn't be happier. I want family members or caregivers all to get to know their person on a different level, because that's what happens. When they start interacting in a group, they see another side of mom or whoever it is that they're taking care of. And this has been very important. It has really boosted people's self-esteem. For several of our regular guests, it has delayed their dementia and slowed it down, because they have the opportunity just to be able to interact on their level, whatever is comfortable for them. And in a community and with a group that understands them. My main focus is to help everybody live so-called normal lives with joy, whatever their abilities. That's it.